Netflix's Love, Death, and Robots just had its season 4 or volume 4, so I want to talk about it. Now, I've only got 10 minutes, so and there's 10 little things they did. So, and if you're not familiar with the show, it's basically just animation with a lot of, stuff. It's not really necessarily about Love, Death, and Robots, but it does deal with a lot of speculative fiction themes. And I'm going to get the first one out of the way because it is just essentially the Red Hot Chili Peppers performing, but for some reason they're all marionettes. And I'm told it's based on an original performance that they did, but they're all marionettes. I'm sure some animation had to be used to do this. And the thing is, I can't tell if it's CG or they actually got all those marionettes together. And I have to say this, why? It's directed by David Fincher. David Fincher is a great director. Why is this done? I don't know why this thing is. It's a bad start, but hey, it gets better, trust me. Then there's this one thing called Close Encounters of the Mini Kind. This was, I actually think there was a sketch that they did in, I can't remember which season it was, but these particulars, it uses sort of animation using tilt-shift photography. Now, tilt-shift is something you can do with any particular scene, where I swear if you put the camera in a certain way, and if you photograph a city, the end result, it will look like a miniature version of itself. In this case, they actually took advantage of that, and they made this weird thing where aliens invade, and and they show this long drawn-out alien invasion plot where humans get the alien technology, and then they start gaining ground on the aliens, and then the aliens escalate it, and it all ends up with a huge escalation. But you know what? I'm not going to give away the ending of that one. I mean, I don't know how long it is. I think it's about 7 minutes. I think you should have fun with it, really. Okay, so then there was a thing called Spider Rose, and I have to admit, this one had a really unusual plot line of this lady who lives in an asteroid, but she's kind of floating all the time, and it was a weird setup. And she has this certain gem, and she wants to trade it for something. And then we find out in her backstory, she had a husband or something like that who was killed by this guy, and she wants revenge on this guy. And then at some point in time, and then the people that want this gem, they say you can have this little life form. So she befriends this cute little monster thing, and then the enemy shows up, and then so she has to stop them. And I don't know, I feel like there's a lot going on in this story, and I felt like it needed more explanation than it actually gave, and I didn't really think the payoff was all that good, honestly. So anyway, so let's move on to, oh my gosh, 400 Boys. 400 Boys is absolutely insane. It takes place in this world that's very weirdly animated. I don't really know how to describe it. I maybe Into the Spider-Verse type animation, but I don't think that's really a good. I think that might put something in your mind that maybe isn't really this. It's definitely going for an artsy style of that. It takes place in this world where that has been apparently, maybe there was a nuclear war in it or something in the past. But essentially, now there's these massive creatures loose on it. And really, there's no civilization. There's only these street gangs here. And these street gangs have to band together to stop these massive monsters, which are giant babies. And when I was watching this, it was one of those times where I went what am I watching here? This is either the coolest thing I've ever seen or the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I'm going to vote for cool. And honestly, I thought it was pretty awesome. Okay, now then there was this sketch called The Other Large Thing, which I have to admit, I didn't really think much of when I saw it, because it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. It was kind of showed this cat, and this cat had human owners that were pretty, that had bought this robot, and the cat was a little worried that the robot was going to take its place. And then suddenly the cat befriends the robot because the robot can apparently learn its language. So I guess there's kind of a wild robot sort of thing there. And I didn't really realize this until I read about this, but I realized that Love, Death, and Robots has had actually this recurring sketch with these 3 robots, and at the end of the apocalypse or something during the apocalypse or something like that, who befriend a cat. Now I actually think that this sketch is sort of a prequel to it. I didn't really think that this sketch was all that good, honestly. So, yeah, I'll say that. Then there's Golgotha. Now, this particular one was actually, this was more live action than it had a lot of animation in there. And this one kind of like, this is another one where I thought like, I need more explanation than what you're giving me here. I kind of felt like, okay, what is this? The premise is apparently some aliens have come, and there's apparently like a dolphin or something that got resurrected, and so now the aliens think the dolphin is sort of the Messiah. And then, so by the end, I think the aliens are pretty much destroying the world. And I think there's a character in there who's like a priest, who's played by Rice Darby. I'm probably not pronouncing this actor's name right, but I've seen him in other things, and he usually does a very good job. In this case, I kind of went like, okay, I don't even know what's going on here. And when it ended, I kind of felt like this really should be beginning here. And so if someone wants to make a series out of this, maybe you can make it more sense. I don't know. Okay, now let's talk about the Screaming of the Tyrannosaur. This one I thought might have been the best one here because it takes a premise that is just so insane and it runs with it, literally running with it. And let me explain. It starts out, I think, like in some sort of weird man-made satellite, which is kind of in a ring shape. And so the upper crust of this society basically makes slaves run races, and in this case they ride these Triceratops things, and the racers have these grappling hook things that they can shoot to hook on the earring things on these things. And just describing this sounds weird. I have to admit I didn't really like how this sketch ended, because I kind of felt like, all right, because I think I had to think about the main plan of what this protagonist was trying to do. And then something arose that I felt like, okay, they couldn't have really planned on that, could they? I don't know. I kind of felt like it's just such an insane concept that it's just like, okay, fine. I just kind of ran with it. I just kind of went with it. Okay, How Zeke Got Religion is a story that takes place during World War II on board one of those bombers. And I have to admit, like, I did not know this animation was just insane on this, and the gore was absolutely even more insane. And essentially, yeah, the government or the Allies want to bomb this one church because they think the Nazis are releasing some kind of demon or something like that. And then this demon ends up aboard this bombardier and starts seriously massacring it. And then it shows kind of how Zeke, well, managed to beat this thing. And that's a pretty interesting story. It's a great action sequence, so what can I say? Alright. Okay, then there's one called Smart Appliances, Stupid Owners, and I have to say this one, I wouldn't say it was the weakest one, but it was obviously, it's one of those very simple concept ones that it's like, yeah, I predicted where the jokes would go, where essentially they show like these appliances talking about their owners and how and stuff like that. And then there's one that's like a vibrator that I kind of went like, okay, it's pretty obvious what that. I mean, that's a cheap gag right there. And so it's done in a weird kind of claymation way. I'm not really certain how they did the animation on it. Not really all that good, and I didn't really feel like there was any real point to it. Now, speaking of no real point, I'm not really certain what the point of this last sketch was. It was called Freakin' Creep, and it takes place in some sort of, I don't know, asylum or something like that. And so apparently there's this guy who has a cat, and then Satan shows up and wants this guy to write this poem that will apparently bring about the end of the world, and this cat is able to get the other cats together to beat the devil so that the guy can not write this poem. It's a real odd concept that doesn't really work for me, but I have to admit the animation feels very odd. It's like, imagine if Leonardo da Vinci's drawings were animated. I kind of feel like that's maybe the direction they were going for. So kudos on that. So how do I feel about Love, Death, and Robots? Well, there are certain seasons that I remember pretty well, certain stories I remember pretty well, but on the whole, I have to admit, it can get pretty forgettable because they have a lot of spaces between their seasons, really. So, I don't know, you might like this season if you like this show.